Good morning. I am Johari Williams, and I'm the CEO and founder of the Art Dance Academy. Did you know that children who are exposed to the arts have a higher graduation rate as well as better chances going into college? But currently, there are 1.3 million children who are not exposed to the arts. Here in Houston, there are over 500 institutions devoted to the performing arts, visual arts, history, and sciences, but not one performing art institution is located in the Third Ward community here in Houston, Texas. Because of that, I have decided to establish the Art Dance Academy, a dance studio that is dedicated to high-quality instruction in ballet, jazz, tap, dance, and modern and hip-hop. Being a fellow Houstonian and from that community, there was only one dance studio that I was able to train in. But currently, that dance studio has been closed for over 15 years. So currently, Third Ward Community is a performing arts desert. And the Third Ward Community is located inside of 610, immediately southeast of downtown, surrounded by Texas Southern University, the University of Houston, 7 schools, 9 daycares, over 20 churches, and 2 assisted living facilities. Because of that, I would want to expose my community in which they have given me the exposure of the arts. I began training dance again at the age of 3, where I was later a graduate of the High School for Performing and Visual Arts and Dance, was a Dance Arts National Arts Merit recipient, as well as a member of the Texas Tap Ensemble. I later graduated from Clark Atlanta University with my Bachelor's of Arts in Accounting and my Master's in Business Administration, but my passion has called me to teach for over 5 years in local dance studios here in the surrounding Houston area. Because my dance studio will be the only dance studio in that community, I automatically have a competitive advantage. And being from that community, I understand the demographic, the buying power, and the demand of that community. Therefore, I was able to align my prices to the lower living costs of the expenses, making my prices 13% lower than the competition that's 5 to 10 miles outside of the Third Ward community. So some of the products that I will be offering, the products and services, will be a monthly registration and season-based dance performance classes at $15 per hour. Also, there's a drop-in dance rate for those who are from outside of the community for $20 per hour. And in the future, we look to having retail items of the Art Dance Academy branded leotards, dance accessories, and equipment. Our target market ranges from the ages of 3 to senior citizens. We feel that anybody who has a passion for dance or even just wants a little bit of movement in their life will be our market. So we plan on getting these customers by social media, print material, community outreach. I'm currently working with the dance chair of the High School for Performing and Visual Arts to have my dance studio listed for her students to attend, as well as I'm in communication with the local studios to actually disperse my print material for enrollment. My startup cost is $70,000, needing that I need a brick and mortar. So if I'm so fortunate to win the $10,000, it will go to purchasing my LLC, as well as secure a leased space for the brick and mortar, purchase my advertising print material, as well as develop my website and register my domain. I would like to thank the sponsors, the City of Houston Office of Business Opportunity, Capital One, Liftoff Houston, and the Houston Public Library for allowing me to attend the workshops, submit my business plan, as well as present my company, the Art Dance Academy. Thank you very much.
Like to go?
I'll start. Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
Wonderful idea and your passion both for the arts and for the community that you live in and grew up in. I'm curious if you've done research into the number of kids in the area that are likely to take dance and whether you've modeled the kind of pricing model to cover the brick and mortar that you referenced.
Yes, ma'am. So when I included my pricing at $15 per hour, that was based upon me having 50 students over the full year. So that will put me at a profit margin at $15 per hour. So even if I had and that will be a beginning of about 15 in the beginner ranges, 15 at intermediate, and about 20 at the advanced level. And we're working with some of the students. I actually have students in that community in which I choreograph and dance for who are waiting for me to open my own brick and mortar. So I have, as well as worked with some of the dance companies in the local schools.
Thank you.
No problem, thank you. Hi.
Hi, congratulations on a good
Thank
presentation. Could you tell us a little bit about what's going to happen in the next couple of years, meaning your timeline, when you plan to open, and what you expect to do in the first and second year?
Absolutely. So first year, I plan on opening for the fall of 2019. I'm currently in communications with a contractor for the brick and mortar. I've found my location, which will be for Old Spanish Trail and Cullen. It's centrally located right outside of the University of Houston, which has access to the freeways 288 as well as 45 and the Spur, so they're easy access to it. My plan will be in year 2 and 3, of course, continue to grow, as well as expand and having a touring dance company for the children as well as adults.
So when do you expect to break even?
Oh, my break even will be in 6 months. My plan is to break even at 6 months if I continuously grow on a constant basis as I projected in my cash flow.
Great presentation, by the way.
Thank you.
And what is your plan to scale when you look at school districts that are nearby? What is your short-term plan on how are you going to get inside of like school districts like HISD, Yates High School in the local area?
Thank you. So since I've already been in communications with the staff, the plan is to work with the the competition teams there and then speak with the administration. Because I do have a relationship with being within that community, I have those contacts already. So I'm just working on getting official approval through Houston ISD to start off to actually disperse my material, because you have to get background checks and everything like that. So I'm currently working with that, but directly with Yates and the High School for Performing and Visual Arts, I've already been in contact with the dance chairs there. Yes, ma'am.
Can you tell us a little bit about those competitors? I was glad to hear that even though you're the only one in the third ward, you did look at people outside of you. So tell me a little bit about your closest competitors, where they are, and how you're different from them.
Absolutely. So the closest competitor is Metropolitan Dance, which is in the Midtown area. They focus on a higher clientele, which can do more private lessons at a higher rate. And then they also feed into their own dance company, which is Met Dance and Met 2. Where I differ is a different demographic. Most of them are predominantly white students, and there aren't that many of minorities that attend that dance studio. So I want to branch out where it's more of a diversity of students. And so in the third ward community, it is predominantly minority, so I want to give those students the opportunity to also receive the same quality instruction.
I have another question
Yes, ma'am.
too. So you mentioned that dance and movement is for 3 to seniors, and I wondered if you've given thought to how you would utilize your space and your dance studio during times when kids are in school to really maximize your cash flow.
Absolutely. So during those times, I want to reach out to have assisted living facilities to use it as more like a physical therapy or a recreational dance class. So have the groups come in and just take maybe a couples dance class or just a movement and rhythm class, as well as for daycares, give them a little outing to do where they have the children just learn beginning movements as well. So I've been working and considering having that time when school is in, having the senior citizens come in and really enjoy that time and space.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Cash flow projections, have you considered any kind of money that subsidizes the disadvantaged, in other words, grant money or some kind of contribution other than raising the money directly from the consumer?
Absolutely. So I've considered in going with the local businesses, seeing if they would be willing to actually sponsor dancers. So once I find out that there is a need, a specific dancer may come to me and say, I can't afford it, go into a company, a local business, actually have them sponsor that dancer, and then highlight them on my website with the company logo and give them a bio so that they see that their money is just not going anywhere, and give them actually a development and improvement status updates.
And do you have a plan to operate without an actual location as well? If you're unable to get that?
Yes, so I've considered what's called Century 21 programming, where it's more like after school if I can't get into a brick and mortar, just to develop my customer. And then once I can develop the cash flow to get into a brick and mortar, it's, have them come to my location.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
I would like everyone to close your eyes for a second and think back to the first day of school. You're holding your lunch, you're looking out into the abyss, otherwise known as the lunchroom. How do you feel? Awkward, nervous, uncomfortable? Well, this is how my adults with disabilities feel like on a daily basis. Hi, my name is Lauren Wiggins. I'm the owner, founder of the Block of Greater Houston. It is a special needs adult day program designed by the experiences of my former clients. At the Block, we provide opportunities of friendship and we help navigate their worlds using their full potential. I have 10 years of experience in verbal behavior and applied behavior analysis fields. I also have a master's degree and I'm a certified autism specialist. In 2004, HISD placed a cap on how many special ed students can be serviced by the special education department. Not until 2016 were they exposed by the Houston Chronicle. So those 12 years of qualified students not getting serviced by the special education department were not educated. And so I formed in 2013 Behavioral Learning Agency because I saw a need to train preschool teachers on how to handle children on the autism spectrum, because unfortunately children are not diagnosed until after preschool. So as my clients age and those 12 years of students of unserviced and special education department and HISD graduate, who's gonna help them navigate their worlds and help them decipher what to do and how to live their lives? There's been an increase of people with disabilities in Texas, and therefore Texas is the second highest state with individuals with disabilities. Now, we do have our competitors, the Hub, Friends of Downs, and Avondale House, but they are not centrally located, and you have to have a certain diagnosis in order to gain admittance into those programs. But at the Block, we accept all adults with disabilities, and we are centrally located. And also, right before Hurricane Harvey hit, I visited the 87 adult day programs that are state funded, and none of them specialize in special education. I will hire 4 administrators and 14 buddies. Our ratio will be 1:5, and we'll be located at 4916 Main Street in the Museum District, not far from the Metro Rail and the the Medical Center. A lot of adults with disabilities have specialized dietary restrictions, and in order to solve that problem, we will partner up with Wisdom's Vegan and Bakery to provide our meals. Our daily rate will be $95 a day. We will offer employment in local businesses. We will volunteer. We will have problem-solving classes. We will have teachable moments at concerts and festivals. We will also have socialization activities like Lip Sync Battle Fridays. Our cash flow projections have us increasing for the next 3 years because of our model. And when we are awarded the $10,000, we will retain an attorney, file for an LLC, gain a contract through Medicaid through the state of Texas, and get a permit through the Houston Permitting Department, is just to name a few. I would like to thank Liftoff Houston and its sponsors by providing me the knowledge to help adults with disabilities live their best lives. Thank you.
I can see you're so passionate about what you do, and I congratulate you on what you've done already and what you're trying to do. So could you tell us a little bit more about the different kinds of programming that you're offering throughout the day? That slide went by pretty quickly, and I'd like to understand that a little bit more. And then how it's different than some of what the others are doing.
Okay, so the others are nonprofit based, and so a lot of them have classrooms. They're in classrooms all day, they're doing puzzles, regardless of their intellectual abilities. They're doing things in-house and they're around others with other disabilities. How we're going to be different, we're going to have other adults their same age, but not with disabilities. I want volunteers in between the same age, because in order for adults with disabilities to learn how to be independent and how the real world works, they need to be around other typical human beings and learn from that. And so we'll provide, so everything that we're doing, we're all about socialization. So in the midst of going to concerts, and we're gonna be going out into the community, because a lot of adults with disabilities, unfortunately, do not go into community because parents feel that they're lacking, they're gonna have tantrums and whatnot. I'm about, let's go in the community, let's have a conversation, let's actually talk to the cashier. And in those moments, we're going to be teaching them how to live their lives. And so that's what makes us different from the others. It's more about us, we're having fun, but in the midst of having fun with other adults your age, we're gonna be learning how to count, how to have a conversation, how to get on Metro Rail. What can you do without your parents? Teach you how to be independent.
Good, great presentation. And just starting off with your business model, is it $95 per person, or how does that work?
It's $95 per person from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. And the $95 also includes the vegan meals as well. They'll get one vegan meal and a snack as well.
So what would be your estimated goal on how many people you would want per day?
My goal right now is 30 people a day. That will get me to have a profit. 30 people a day for those from 6 to 6. So some people, so they have the option to either be with me all day, or you can be with me half the day and then I can have another person come in for the other half. Because I will have some adults that may not be able to afford the $95, but I will provide opportunities for them to work in the community, and that job will help cut the cost of the programming down because they're working. So they don't need to pay the $95, they will have a reduced rate.
Thank you. Well, I'd like to congratulate you too. I know you were nervous, but your passion really shone through. I have a question about, you've referenced just now, and I think in your business plan you mentioned also the desire to promote employment opportunities for your clients. Could you say a little more about how you would connect folks who have gone through your sessions and have gained these skills to then move on to employment?
So when they enter the block, I will have an interview process. I will interview the parents and the client as well to learn what their abilities are. And usually with my experience with autism, there's always that one thing that they're really good at. And I will figure out what that one thing is, and we will cultivate on that, and we'll find a job that actually corresponds to what you're good at. For example, if you're good at organizing items, it will be in an office. You can organize the paper clips and the colors, or preschool and organize the different colors of the construction paper or whatnot, or we will find the right job for you. And I've already scouted, because where we're located, there's lots of businesses around, and also the Children's Museum actually became a certified autism building, and so we're going to partner up with them as well to provide opportunities for my adults to be out in the community, so the community can see us and we can see them.
Do you have a plan to scale within school districts, understanding that I know Texas is one of the worst with special education at the bottom? So what is your plan to work with school districts and take a percentage of those students into your program?
Oh, yes. So there's lots of different programs that HISD or Spring or Fort Bend has right now, where, because most adults with disabilities have the option to stay in high school until about 23, 24. And so those are like life skill classes. So I will go to those classes and tell them about the block so they know that there's another opportunity once they graduate from high school. So I will be going out into the schools and canvassing and making sure I have relationships with those teachers so they know what's out there. Because unfortunately, the communication barrier is there and they don't know where to, other than trying to find them jobs, where can they go, especially if they're lower on the spectrum, where can they go for them to continue to service their skills and figure out life? Yes.
Could you please tell me a little bit more about that location? I mean, I can see that it's well positioned because you've referenced that already, but a little bit about the location, why you're picking it, why it's a great deal, and then a little bit about where in those revenue projections you plan to hit break even. And my last one in there is what have you considered regarding some kind of outside funding where someone else is paying for someone to go through the program rather than the consumer?
Yes, so there are a lot, to answer the last question for right now, there are a lot of programs out here that will provide different organizations funding for the actual program that I'm also in works with right now. There's plenty of grants out there, and you don't even have to be nonprofit to apply for those grants as well. And it's only for the programming, not for the building or it's time. But we could talk later.
All right.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
People are frustrated with hotels. The rooms are small, expensive, and soulless. Now, there is a more spacious alternative. If you book on Airbnb or VRBO, you can save up to 40% a night by staying in somebody else's property. 90% of Americans, however, don't use this option. Why? Because they don't trust what they're going to get. I've heard so many horror stories from friends who have had their stays cancelled at the last minute by a host. They can't get the keys to get in. They find that the place is dirty, or they have to deal with a weird host who makes them feel uncomfortable. Actually, hotels weren't so different 100 years ago. That is, until Conrad Hilton revolutionized the industry by providing reliable quality and creating a trusted brand name. And that happened right here in Texas. This is what we need on Airbnb today. And that's why I created Lodger. We rent stylish and comfortable apartments to travelers who want hotel-like consistency and quality on Airbnb. So specifically, we lease apartments long-term, furnish and decorate them, list them online, host guests, clean, and repeat. So apartment owners are our key stakeholders and primary suppliers. We help them to reduce their vacancies and costs. Our sales model is based on travelers booking online through sites such as Expedia and Airbnb, to whom we pay a commission. We market our properties with great photos and customer service, which results in 5-star reviews. Globally, the hotel market is worth $1 trillion. Home sharing is around $50 billion, but it's growing much faster at 50% annually. Now, based on our bottom-up projections, we'll have close to 900 properties and $33 million in revenues within 3 years. We'll have also created 169 direct and indirect local jobs. So we make money by selling as many nights as possible at the best possible price. On average, it takes around $12,000 to set up the average property, which in turn will make a $1,000 profit each month. There are 250,000 competitors on Airbnb with 750,000 listings. Now, the majority of these are managed by amateur hosts. So our key competition are property managers with 2% of listings and other branded companies like Lodger with 1%. Our main source of differentiation is our focus on interior design, which our research at the University of Cambridge shows can increase property revenues by 50%. Since July, we've been in a research and planning phase. We plan to go live by year-end here in Houston, launching around 1 property a week in zip codes such as Galleria and downtown. In 2019, we'll accelerate our growth by moving to new cities. If we win, the $10,000 will help to cover all of our startup costs, These are primarily related to data, software, and equipment. Growing sustainably is critical to us. That's why we'll carefully manage our costs and cash flow and expand only if we have access to capital and our properties are profitable. So I've spoken a lot about trust today, so why should you trust me? Well, 4 reasons. 1, working for my family's hospitality business, I've spoken to 30,000 travelers, so I understand their needs well. 2, I've got 10 years of corporate experience helping companies to perform better. 3, I've done this before. I launched the UK market for a competitor, putting together a portfolio of property worth $130 million. And finally, the industry was a topic of my master's thesis at the University of Cambridge. And that's it. So thank you for listening. Do stay in contact if you'd like to stay, lease, invest, work with us. Thank you very much. Hi, very good, thank you.
All right, great presentation.
Thank
so
you.
the first question I had was, how do you go from your first year to second year, 628% in revenue increase? Like, how did you come up with those projections and numbers?
So basically, there are two key ways which we grow. The first is how many properties we set up a week. So we're starting by doing 1 property a week. So our interior, we do the interior design, it gets set up. So a week is actually a decent amount of time. So in the second year, we start going to new markets. So every 3 months, we open a new market. So instead of going from 1 property a week, you're then doing 2 a week, 3 a week, depending on how many markets you're present in. And that's how the revenues ramp up quite aggressively. There's also sort of, and because you're doing properties at each point in time, that's why it's growing much faster. The curve is more sort of J-shaped. Mm-hmm.
Can you explain more, what's entailed in setting up a property per week? What is their responsibility and what's your responsibility in all of it?
So basically, we get a vacant property. We work with our interior designer who will come up with a design, which will sort of approve. There'll be a shopping list, so we order a bunch of things online. Initially, we'll order from retailers, but in the future, we envisage having our own supply chain of furniture. So that's all the stuff that's bespoke to the property. Then there are items which are in all the properties, like the same mattresses, the same pillows, so that we ensure quality, things in the kitchen. So we move all those, set them up, photographer comes in, takes pictures, and then we sort of upload them to our property management system, which then distributes it to Airbnb, Expedia, and all the different websites for distribution. So we've allowed a sort of a 1-month ramp-up period. So in my projections, I've assumed there's no revenue for the first month, but we have expenses for the first month. That's fairly conservative because you can actually set up a property within 1 day when you're doing things sort of quite aggressively. But again, the key sort of constraint then is capital to set up the new properties, of course.
So you're paying for all of the FF&E that's going into the property, and you
Yes.
own all of that?
Yes. So, I mean, there's a few business models. Most of our business will be where we take the risk. So we put up the capital to set up the property. We pay rent to the apartment owner. And then we take, whatever the difference is between what we pay them and the revenue we make, that's what we keep. We can do a partnership model where instead either they put up the capital to furnish property or we do, and then depending on the commission rate, but ultimately it kind of ends up the same. It's then a question of our partners, what model they sort of prefer. One has more risk to them and one has less risk.
And so you have people on the property to implement and to service, or they're responsible for that?
So in the main model, no, we do all of that ourselves. So in terms of our teams, so we'll have a team in each market, which will be full-time, and they'll work with a number of contractors, so cleaners, movers, etc., to sort of help these things happen. Now, as you get sort of bigger, for example, I can then hire interior designers full-time, as opposed to just doing sort of freelance work with them.
So is it true that one apartment complex may have apartments in it, but also a section that's this, or is it the whole thing or nothing?
So typically, this is a business model which has been validated by a number of sort of other companies. So we'll start off and say, well, what do you have? And they'll usually start out and give you maybe a few units, maybe 2-3 units, and maybe in different parts of the building. But what you're seeing as developers become comfortable with this concept, there was in Nashville, one of our competitors took 150 units at once in a new 500-unit building. And ideally, we get to the point in the future where we're taking maybe a whole block in a development, or we're doing a whole floor at a time. That makes it a little bit sort of easier to sort of organize, particularly if we can get involved in the initial build thing. We can there are certain design considerations we can have. So we could have some of our, a room for operations, for example, where we have all the sheets and bedding and things that are there ready, which kind of simplifies our operating model.
Got it.
What is your burn rate per year?
It depends. And I say it depends because it depends how many properties you sign. The key use of cash ultimately is buying furniture, bedding, etc. So one property has a payback period of 12 months. So after 12 months, you can then set up a new property. So the other source of cash obviously is scaling up the local city teams to sort of reach operational efficiencies, and the other use of cash is scaling our sort of head office team. Now, in terms of my capital model, ideally I have on the one side real estate investors who supply cash, set up new properties, and then we look to traditional angel and VC investors to help the sort of talent scaling part.
I do have a question about your year two assumptions and entries into new markets. It seems like it really relies on having a surplus of rental properties or new rental properties that come online and not a really tight real estate market. Are there certain cities that you've researched that have that kind of new development coming on board or a surplus of
So in
rental?
terms of sort of the macro trends of apartments, so there's been an overbuild in the luxury market, which is actually sort of what we target. So that's going to be increasing vacancies and putting pressure. Now, and if the economy does sort of turn, people tend to then downsize if they're renting. But again, those are sort of positive segments. So I've looked at 3 markets initially, Houston, San Antonio, and Austin, gathered 15,000 data points to forecast the revenue models. And yes, I mean, I've also looked at availability. There's, I can get the vacancy rates for any apartment building that I want, and that's then a good negotiating point. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.